My friends, have you ever watched a little child? Have you ever seen the way they marvel at the world, the way they trust, the way they love, the way they believe without hesitation? There is a mystery in the simplicity of a child, a secret woven into their very being, a wisdom that the world has long forgotten. The scripture tells us in Matthew 18:03, "Truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." It is not the wisdom of the scholars, not the knowledge of the powerful, but the heart of a child that opens the gates of heaven. We live in a world that prizes sophistication, calculation, and skepticism. We are taught to be guarded, to doubt, to rely on reason above faith. But the child knows something greater. The child trusts in the unseen, rejoices in the moment, and walks in a faith unshaken by the storms of life. Today we return to that wisdom. Today we step back into the wonder, the trust, the faith of a little child. Because in that wisdom, in that simplicity, lies the very key to the kingdom of God. A child believes without questioning, without analyzing every possibility, without doubting what they are told by someone they trust. When a child is told that something is true, they embrace it with an open heart. They do not need to see the full picture. They do not demand proof. They do not hesitate. This is the faith that moves mountains, the faith that pleases God. When Jesus said that we must become like little children to enter the kingdom of heaven, he was revealing a deep and powerful truth. Faith is not about understanding everything. It is about trusting the one who does. A child leaps into their father's arms without hesitation, without asking whether he is strong enough to catch them, without calculating the risks. They simply trust because they know their father's love. That is the faith God desires from us, a faith that does not waver, does not hesitate, does not hold back. The world teaches us to doubt, to question everything, to rely only on what we can see and prove. But a child's wisdom is greater than the wisdom of this world, for they know that love can be trusted, that the one who cares for them will not let them fall. In the scriptures, we see countless examples of those who walked in this kind of faith. Abraham, called by God to leave everything he knew, did not ask for explanations. He simply obeyed. Noah, warned about a flood that had never been seen before, built an ark in faith, not needing evidence. Peter, at the command of Jesus, stepped out onto the water, not because it made sense, but because he trusted the voice that called him. This is the kind of faith that releases miracles, that breaks chains, that overcomes every obstacle. The enemy of faith is doubt. Doubt creeps in through logic, through fear, through experience. The longer we live in this world, the more we are tempted to doubt what cannot be seen. We learn to trust in our own understanding, to rely on what is visible, to hesitate before taking a step forward. But faith is not found in calculations. Faith is found in surrender. A child does not need to know how their parent will provide for them. They simply rest in the fact that they will be cared for. They do not lose sleep over tomorrow. They do not worry about what they cannot control because they know that they are loved and protected. This is the faith that God calls us to. A faith that does not demand every answer before moving forward. A faith that does not wither in the face of uncertainty. A faith that trusts God beyond what the eyes can see. The world teaches that wisdom is about having all the answers, but the wisdom of the child is in knowing that they don't need all the answers, they only need the one who holds them. When a child is learning to walk, they stumble, they fall, but they do not quit. They do not doubt their ability to walk simply because they have fallen. They do not question whether it is possible, because they see others walking and they believe. That is the kind of faith that God calls us to, a faith that does not give up, that does not allow failure to define us, that presses forward with the certainty that what God has spoken will come to pass. God has called his people to walk in this kind of faith, to step into the unknown with the trust of a child, to believe his promises even when circumstances seem impossible. A child does not need to see the entire staircase to take the first step. They do not ask for a full explanation before following their parents' lead. They trust because they know the character of the one who leads them. How often do we hesitate when God calls us to something greater? How often do we demand proof before we move forward? The wisdom of the child is this: they believe before they see, they trust before they understand, they walk before they have all the answers. This is the faith that changes lives, the faith that shakes nations, the faith that brings the impossible into reality. A child finds joy in the smallest things in ways that adults often overlook. A puddle of water becomes an ocean of adventure. A butterfly fluttering by is a miracle worth chasing. The laughter of a friend, the warmth of the sun, the sight of a bright-colored balloon. All of these things are enough to bring delight to a child's heart. They do not need extravagant reasons to smile. They simply rejoice in what is in front of them. This is a wisdom that the world forgets, yet it holds a powerful truth. Joy is not found in possessions, in status, or in achievements. Joy is a condition of the heart. As we grow older, we are taught that joy must be earned, that it is something to be worked for, that it is the result of success, comfort, or security. But a child does not think this way. They do not wait for perfect circumstances to be happy. They do not say, "I will rejoice when everything is in order." They simply wake up each day with an expectation of good. They laugh freely, they dance without shame, they sing without fear. The world may call this naivety, but in reality it is wisdom. It is the wisdom to understand that joy is always available, that it is not dependent on circumstances, that it is a gift freely given to those who are willing to receive it. In the scriptures, we see this wisdom reflected time and time again. Paul, writing from a prison cell, declares, "Rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say, rejoice." He does not say, "Rejoice when life is easy." He does not say, "Rejoice when everything makes sense." He says, "Rejoice always." This is the same wisdom that a child possesses. They do not let their circumstances determine their joy. They may scrape their knee, but minutes later they are playing again. They may fall, but they get up with laughter. They do not dwell in sorrow because they know that joy is always within reach. How often do we allow the burdens of life to steal our joy? How often do we withhold laughter until we believe we have a reason to be happy? A child does not live this way. They do not carry the weight of tomorrow on their shoulder. They do not let the troubles of the world rob them of the beauty in front of them. They understand in their innocence that joy is not something to be found later. It is something to be experienced now. A child does not complicate joy. They do not require great riches or perfect conditions. They can find delight in a simple song, in a dance, in a moment of kindness. They find joy in the embrace of a loved one, in the taste of their favorite food, in the sound of rain tapping against a window. Their wisdom is in knowing that joy is already here, waiting to be embraced. The world often tries to replace true joy with temporary pleasures. It tells us that joy comes from wealth, from fame, from accomplishments. But the more we chase these things, the more they seem to slip through our fingers. A child, however, does not chase after joy. It simply lives within them. They do not wait for happiness. They step into it freely. In the kingdom of God, joy is not a reward. It is a way of life. Jesus said, "Let the little children come to me, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." Why? Because they carry a joy that is pure, unshaken and unburdened. They do not question whether they deserve it. They do not hold back their laughter. They simply rejoice. When a child plays, they do not worry about the past. They do not dwell on mistakes. They do not live in fear of what is to come. They are fully present, fully alive, fully joyful. They are not waiting for a reason to celebrate. They make every moment a celebration. This is the wisdom of a child, and this is the joy that God desires for his people. A child knows they need guidance. They do not pretend to have all the answers. They do not rely on their own strength. They do not act as though they can make it through life alone. When they need help, they reach out without shame. When they fall, they lift their hands, expecting someone to pick them up. When they are lost, they cry out, knowing that a loving voice will answer. They do not resist being led because they understand something that the world forgets. Humility is not weakness, it is wisdom. As people grow older, they are taught to be self-sufficient. They are told that strength means never asking for help, that wisdom means figuring things out on their own, that success is found in standing alone. But a child is not weighed down by these illusions. A child understands that life was never meant to be navigated alone, that there is wisdom in following, that there is power in dependence. This is the same truth that Jesus taught when he said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." To be poor in spirit is to know that we are not self-sufficient, that we need God, that we cannot do this on our own. The world teaches pride, but a child walks in humility. They do not hesitate to ask questions, to admit when they do not know something, to seek guidance. They are not afraid to say, "Help me." They do not pretend to have it all together. This is the kind of heart that God honors, a heart that is open, teachable, willing to be led. The scriptures tell us that God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. This is why a child finds favor, because they do not resist grace, they receive it. They do not harden their hearts to instruction, they embrace it. A child does not concern themselves with status. They do not strive to be the greatest, to be recognized, to be admired. They are content simply being who they are. They do not measure their worth by their accomplishments or their possessions. They do not compare themselves to others. They walk in the freedom of humility, and in that freedom they find peace. Jesus demonstrated this kind of humility when he washed the feet of his disciples, the Son of God, the King of Kings, kneeling down to serve, to show that true greatness is found in humility. A child understands this instinctively. They do not see service as beneath them. They help without hesitation. They give without expecting anything in return. They love without pride getting in the way. A child does not resist correction. When they are taught, they listen. When they are wrong, they are quick to say, "I'm sorry." They do not hold on to pride. They do not let stubbornness keep them from doing what is right. They are willing to grow, to change, to learn. This is the wisdom of humility, the ability to admit when we are wrong, the ability to be corrected without offense, the ability to see that we do not have all the answers. When a child follows their parent through a crowded place, they do not argue about which way to go. They do not insist on taking their own path. They simply hold the hand that leads them. This is the posture of the humble. Those who walk in trust, who do not resist the guiding hand of God, who know that they are safest when they follow the one who knows the way. Pride is the barrier that keeps many from experiencing the fullness of life that God desires for them. It tells them they must prove themselves, that they must rely on their own strength, that they must never show weakness. But a child is free from such burdens. They do not feel the need to impress. They are secure in being small, in being led, in being dependent. This is the kind of heart that God can use, a heart that is yielded, surrendered, willing to follow wherever he leads. The greatest in the kingdom are not those who exalt themselves, but those who humble themselves. The wisdom of a child is the wisdom of surrender, of trust, of knowing that they do not have to carry the weight of the world on their own. They are not burdened by the need to be in control. They rest in the care of the one who is greater. A child forgives easily. They do not keep a record of wrongs. They do not dwell on past offenses. They do not let bitterness take root in their hearts. If one child takes a toy from another, there may be a moment of tears, a moment of frustration, but minutes later they are playing together again as if nothing ever happened. They do not carry grudges. They do not demand repayment. They do not let offense define their relationships. They simply let go. This is a wisdom that many adults struggle to grasp, yet it is the very nature of God's own forgiveness. As people grow older, they learn to hold on to offenses. They remember who hurt them. They rehearse the pain. They let wounds fester until they turn into bitterness. They begin to believe that forgiveness must be earned, that justice must be served before they can move forward. But a child does not demand justice before they forgive. They do not wait for an apology before they choose to love again. They do not let pride stand in the way of reconciliation. They forgive quickly, and in doing so, they remain free. Jesus taught this same wisdom when he said, "Unless you forgive others, your Father in heaven will not forgive you." He was not saying this to place a burden on people, but to reveal the truth. Unforgiveness is a prison, and the only way out is to let go. A child understands this instinctively. They do not lock themselves in the prison of resentment. They do not carry the weight of grudges. They release it as quickly as it comes because they know something that the world forgets. Forgiveness is not for the other person. It is for the one who forgives. The world tells people to guard their hearts, to protect themselves from being hurt, to cut off those who offend them. But a child does not build walls around their heart. They remain open, vulnerable, willing to love again even after being hurt. This is not weakness, it is strength. It takes strength to love after disappointment. It takes strength to trust again after betrayal. It takes strength to forgive without conditions. A child walks in this strength because they have not yet been taught the ways of the world. They have not yet been conditioned to seek revenge, to hold on to pain, to withhold love as a weapon. They simply love, and because they love, they forgive. When Peter asked Jesus how many times he should forgive someone who sins against him, he thought he was being generous by suggesting 7 times. But Jesus responded, not 7 times, but 70 times 7. This was not about a number, it was about a way of life. It was about the kind of forgiveness that does not count offenses, that does not keep score, that does not put limits on mercy. This is the way a child forgives. They do not say, "This is the last time I will forgive you." They do not set conditions. They simply choose to move on to love again. They do not let it shape their identity. They do not define themselves by the wounds they have received. They live in the moment, and because of that, they do not let past pain steal present joy. This is the kind of freedom that God desires for his people. Not a life weighed down by offenses, but a life of open hands, open hearts, and unshackled souls. A child does not confuse forgiveness with weakness. They do not believe that letting go means losing. They do not see love as something that must be rationed or withheld. They give freely and they forgive freely because they do not see any other way to live. They do not seek power over others by holding their sins against them. They simply release, and in that release, they remain free. Many people believe that forgiveness must come with an explanation, that they must understand why they were hurt before they can let go. But a child does not need an explanation. They do not demand to know why before they forgive. They do not seek closure through words, but through the decision to move forward. They understand in their simplicity that forgiveness is not about understanding the past, but about choosing freedom in the present. A child trusts in love more than in pain. They believe that love is greater than offense, that relationships are more valuable than pride, that healing is more important than holding on to hurt. This is the wisdom that Jesus demonstrated when he hung on the cross and said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." This is the wisdom of heaven, the wisdom that breaks chains, the wisdom that leads to life. A child sees the world with eyes of wonder. They are not weighed down by routine, not dulled by familiarity, not blinded by the need to explain everything. They wake up each day as if it is new, as if it holds 1,000 possibilities, as if even the smallest things are worth noticing. A butterfly is not just an insect, it is a miracle with wings. A flower is not just a plant, it is a masterpiece of color and design. Rain is not just water from the sky, it is a dance of droplets sent from heaven. This is the wisdom that so many lose as they grow older, yet it is the wisdom that leads to true joy, to true faith, to true life. The world teaches people to seek knowledge, to gather information, to understand the mechanics of how things work. And while knowledge has its place, it is not the same as wisdom. Knowledge can explain how a star burns, but it cannot replace the awe of looking up at a night sky filled with them. Knowledge can define what music is, but it cannot replace the feeling of hearing a melody that moves the soul. A child does not let knowledge steal their sense of wonder. They do not need to understand everything to be amazed by it. They are content to simply marvel. Jesus said, "Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin, yet I tell you, even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these." He was inviting his listeners to see the world as a child sees it, to look at creation and recognize the hand of God, to let beauty speak, to let simplicity reveal divine truth. A child does this naturally. They do not rush past the small things. They stop to watch an ant carry a crumb. They stare at the stars with wide eyes. They laugh at the way the wind moves through the trees. They do not need a reason to wonder. They only need the world in front of them. Many people lose this sense of wonder as they grow older. They become busy, distracted, preoccupied. They stop noticing the beauty around them because they have seen it before. They stop being amazed by life because they think they understand it. They no longer hear the music in a bird's song, no longer feel the miracle in a heartbeat, no longer see the fingerprints of God in the world he has made. But a child has not yet been dulled by repetition. Every experience is new. Every moment is filled with possibility. They walk through life as though they are exploring an undiscovered world because to them it is. Wonder is not just an emotion, it is a pathway to faith. The one who wonders is the one who believes. The one who sees with awe is the one who sees God. Scripture says the heavens declare the glory of God, and the sky above proclaims his handiwork. The child who gazes at the stars sees this truth instinctively. They do not need to be convinced of God's existence. They see him in the beauty around them. They do not doubt his presence. They feel it in the wind, in the waves, in the warmth of the sun. A child is never bored with life because they never stop looking. They never stop searching for the extraordinary in the ordinary. They never stop believing that the world is filled with things worth discovering. They do not need entertainment to hold their attention. A puddle is enough. A shadow on the wall is enough. A simple story is enough. They find joy in what others overlook. They find adventure in what others dismiss. This is the wisdom of the child, the ability to see the world as a gift, to live in constant expectation of wonder. Those who live without wonder live without joy. They may achieve much, they may acquire much, they may understand much, but they will never truly live. They will walk past miracles without seeing them, speak without hearing the beauty of their own voice, breathe without noticing the miracle of air filling their lungs. But a child notices, a child marvels, a child sees. To regain the wisdom of the child is to regain the ability to be amazed. It is to wake up each morning as if life itself is new, It is to see the divine in the details, to find God in the simplest things, to walk through the world with eyes that are always open. It is to stand in awe, not just once in a while, but every single day. A child trusts completely. They do not second-guess the love of their parents. They do not live in fear of being abandoned. They do not doubt that they will be cared for. They do not stay awake at night worrying about the future. They do not question whether their needs will be met. They live in absolute dependence, in a faith that is unshaken, in a confidence that they are secure. This is the wisdom that so many lose as they grow older, yet it is the very heart of what it means to walk with God. Jesus said, "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothes?" This is the kind of trust that a child has. They do not concern themselves with how the bills will be paid, how the food over their head will remain. They trust in the one who provides for them. They do not carry burdens they were never meant to carry. They rest in the assurance that they are taken care of. The world teaches self-reliance. It tells people that they must depend on no one, that they must figure everything out, that they must always be in control. But a child does not live this way. They are not burdened by the weight of self-sufficiency. They do not hesitate to ask for help, to reach out their hands, to expect provision from the one who loves them. This is the wisdom of the child, to trust not in their own ability, but in the goodness of the one who cares for them. A child does not overcomplicate faith. They do not demand explanations before they believe. If a loving parent tells them everything will be okay, they believe it. They do not ask for proof. They do not need to understand every detail. They trust because they know they are loved. This is the kind of faith that moves mountains. Not the faith that is based on human reasoning, but the faith that simply believes. Jesus said, "Unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Why? Because a child does not hesitate to trust. They do not allow doubt to cloud their belief. They do not demand guarantees before they step forward. They simply take the hand that is offered to them and walk. They do not hesitate. They do not resist. They do not hold back. They trust fully, and in that trust, they are free. Many people live in fear because they do not trust. They are weighed down by anxiety, by the need to control, by the fear of what might come. They try to figure out every detail, to plan for every possible outcome, to hold everything together by their own strength. But a child does not live this way. They walk in a peace that is unshaken, a rest that is untroubled, a confidence that is unburdened. They do not need to know what tomorrow holds because they trust in the one who holds tomorrow. A child does not try to be strong on their own. They do not pretend that they have everything under control. When they are scared, they run to the arms that will comfort them. When they are tired, they rest without resistance. When they need help, they ask without hesitation. They do not see dependence as weakness. They see it as natural. This is the wisdom that leads to true strength. Not the strength of self-reliance, but the strength of surrender, of knowing that they are not meant to carry everything alone. A child does not hesitate to jump when they know someone will catch them. They do not hold back in fear of falling. They do not live in hesitation, in doubt, in uncertainty. They trust, and because they trust, they live fully. They do not hesitate to embrace, to love, to laugh, to try new things, to step forward with boldness. They are free because they are unafraid. The world teaches caution, skepticism, hesitation. It teaches people to guard their hearts, to question everything, to trust no one fully. But a child has not yet learned these things. They have not yet been taught to live in fear. They have not yet been conditioned to rely only on themselves. They walk in the wisdom of trust. And because of that, they walk in peace. To have the faith of a child is to live without fear of tomorrow, to rest in the arms of the Father, to know that even when things are uncertain, they are still secure. It is to let go of control, to release the burdens of self-sufficiency, to walk in the confidence that they are loved, provided for, and never alone.